Hello,
Yay!
Ichiro,
The tired med student.
the tired med student. Jeez, always have time for Tiro though. Come on,
Oh,
always.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I am excited because this, my friend, is episode 30.
Wow. Oh my God, 30? That's a lot.
It's
That's
crazy.
a lot.
Yeah, I did a lot of work over the summer.
Yeah, you've been busy.
I've been a
You've
little
been
bit.
busy. That's so
I've had,
cool.
no, I've had the time.
Good.
So it's all good. Okay, I think we're just gonna get right into
Let's
this.
do it.
Right, I love it. So, hello and welcome to Change for the Better, the Power of Arts in Education, episode 30. I'm Stacy Tiro, a high school performing arts teacher for over 25 years. I've taught a lot of amazing people. Now that so many of my students are adults, they'll teach me how, through the lessons in my classroom, they have been changed for the better. So, my guest today is another superstar from that famous class of 2015. And we've had many from 2015 come through the podcast. This guy initially had no interest in being on the stage. Instead, he chose to focus his excellence on his academics, and then, of course, being co-captain of the tennis team with his twin brother, Dion, who looks just like that.
Just like me.
Just like that.
I was born first.
Oh, you are elder. I see. So he would come around to rehearsals and sit in the back of the room while we did In the Heights. And he would just sit and watch while his like best friends, Manny and Elijah and his brother Dion, who had auditioned and got a really sweet part, they did their thespian thing. But he was like he would sit like on the floor underneath the blackboard, just kind of like watching. And I thought nothing of it because, his brother was in the show. He was really sweet and quiet and respectful, and he seemed to get a real kick out of like seeing his buddies, dance and sing in the rehearsal studio. So I was like, he's fine. He's having a good time. So one day, late in the rehearsal period, someone dropped out, and I suddenly needed a guy to salsa dance in the club scene for In the Heights. And it was like a small featured role, ensemble kind of thing, but it required someone with some guts because he had to make advances on the character of Vanessa, try to outdo Usnavi, who was played by Manny Piedra, for her attention and try and outdance him. And then he get into a bar brawl before the blackout scene. So I, of course, the way I do things, I consulted with the cast saying that I needed somebody who could do all of that like yesterday. And everybody pointed to him in the back of the room, sitting under the blackboard. And his eyes like bugged out because everybody's like eyes went on him. He
Like,
bugged.
oh God.
But instead of screaming, no, and like running out of the room, he thought about it for a second. He got up and he brushed himself off and he's like, all right, let's see what happens. I was like, okay, great, come on.
Right.
So at that moment, he was hooked. And it was the start of a beautiful working relationship. So by his senior year, the next year, he was fully entrenched in the thespian experience, auditioned for West Side Story, and played the role of Action as a jet. And he had such a commanding presence both on and off the stage. And he just poured every fiber of his being into transforming this like tennis loving leader self into becoming an actor, singer, dancer who could tackle Jerome Robbins choreography.
Attempt to.
No, you did fine. And he knew what he was getting himself into, and he was very ready for that challenge because he learned how to execute sotobasks and meticulous fight sequences. Was it a stroke of luck? Was it serendipity, fate? I don't know. But ever since that first moment when he crossed the threshold from spectator to performer, I have loved getting to know this guy, very extraordinary young man. The words brilliant, talented, and connected only scratch the surface in describing who he really is. After he graduated, he went off to Stony Brook University. He graduated a semester early in December 2018 and went straight to medical school at the, let's see if I get this right, the Zucker School of Medicine at Hofstra Northwell.
Hmm.
And he is now in his fourth and final year of med school before heading into his residency, which will be in physical medicine and rehabilitation. And his goal, his ultimate goal, is to become a doctor of sports medicine. So it's a far cry from his star turn with thespian, but I think there were some things that he learned there that gave him some perspective that maybe he didn't have before. And we'll learn some of those things today.
Absolutely.
So, if you could please tell me your name, the year that you graduated, although we know infamous class of 2015,
Infamous.
infamous, and just tell me a little bit more about like where you are now.
Sure, absolutely. So I am Dwayne Gentle. I graduated from Spring Valley in 2015, and
Mm.
I'm currently living on Long Island, going to medical school. I live with my brother and my girlfriend of 8 years. We met in high school. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
And now I'm just getting through school, trying to get through the last year. It's been such a long journey thus far, but the end is very near,
Mm.
and just enjoying the process. Even though it's close, it's easy to look sort of past this time and jump to the next one, but just trying to be as present as possible and enjoy life. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Yeah,
It must be a little hard to enjoy life when you're in med school.
it's a little bit difficult, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but
Mm.
it was there were two moments in school for me where I really questioned, is this the path for me, the journey for me, given how demanding it is? And my heart is really not in it right now in the moment. And I kind of had to figure out why, what, what was the reason for that. So I got to take some time off and really think about it. Um, and I came to a few answers and made some changes in my life that really sort of changed the trajectory of my life, not just sort of my experience in med school. So I'm extremely grateful for these trials and tribulations that we go through and get to learn from. So,
Well, I'm hoping that we're gonna definitely touch on those revelations that you came to.
mhm,
Before we get to that, since this is an exploration of like where you came from,
mhm,
right? I want you to use your adult brain and describe your adolescent self.
okay.
Mm.
Um, I think the first thing that comes to mind is I was very determined. I knew from a young age what I wanted to go into, which was medicine. And I had a sense, I really didn't know completely. I had an idea of what it might take in terms of prerequisite to get to that moment. Um, so I was very determined. I was focused on my academics. Uh, I would say maybe a rule follower a little bit, you know, kind of didn't like to go too far off of the norm of what was kind of expected of me or what I expected of myself. Um, Happy to say that has changed because at some point you realize you have to do what you want to do, and that's the only thing you can do. But I say back then I was definitely that focused. I just say determined and focused. That really sort of encompasses my high school experience, my childhood, I think.
Mm.
Mm,
Would you say that you were sort of, bold and brave? Because when I think about, that moment when
mhm.
everybody was staring at you saying, Dwayne, Dwayne can do it. I was like, well, don't frighten the guy,
That was probably one of the first moments in my life that I didn't feel brave, but I decided to say yes and as opposed to no.
Mm.
Um, so I think what made me say yes, I just fell in love with the musical. I fell in love with the soundtrack. I loved everything that it was. It was like rap and encompassing a lot of, my culture and what I valued onto the stage. I'm like, I know this, I know this because it's my life in terms of the rapping and all that. Uh, let's go for it. Let's just do it. All of my friends are here. Let's do
Right.
it. Let's
Right.
do it.
Now,
Mhm.
you didn't audition. You decided that auditioning was not going to be a thing for you.
Right. And had I not gotten that position sort of the way I did, with someone dropping out, I don't know that I would have tried out the following year. Like I have a hard time thinking that I would have.
Mhm.
So to me, it was all a fate thing, and everything fell into place how it did. And I just happened to be there. I did not audition, and I don't think I was going to.
Right. No, but yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know if it's fate or serendipity or whatever those the cosmic way that
Hmm.
life kind of falls. But it was a oh well, thank God moment because in that
Hmm.
moment when I realized that the kid wasn't coming back, I was like, oh, I got a big problem here and I solve it. I was like, "Kids, you gotta help me out. You know people, help me out." And they were like, right there." I was like,
Hmm.
"Ooh, wouldn't
Wow,
it be nice if that just worked out nicely?" And it did.
and it did.
The cosmos was looking
That's
over me
crazy.
somehow.
So grateful for that.
Me too.
Wow.
Me too. So now that we have brought you into the studio and brought
Mhm.
you into the thespian experience, and now you can think of that show and the next show too. What was something that happened in the studio, on stage, in that experience that helped you to manage or to regulate your adolescent self?
Mm. I think up until that point, that first show in the Heights and then West Side Story, I haven't done anything that I didn't know I could do. Yeah, I think I said that right. I was very comfortable with the things I engaged with, very comfortable with sort of the new experiences that new quote unquote experiences that I sought out and engaged with.
Mhm.
But to just let go and just be in the moment, I
Mhm.
think is the opportunity that I got to do on stage. And I think that's an incredible thing that I learned while doing that and during that process.
Mhm.
Very calculated. I'm a very calculated person. Like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that is what I do. But to let go a little bit, I think was a very valuable lesson for me. It allowed me to enjoy the moment more. It allowed me to sort of explore myself more,
Mm.
and to just see what comes out, see what happens.
Was it surprising that that sort of bridge to being more in the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's surprising, at least for me, any new experience that you can go into without much of your like preconceptions or much of your expectations. I think you get a lot out of it in any way, in many ways and in any way.
Yeah.
Um, so it was absolutely surprising. I didn't know what to expect.
Mm.
I didn't know how I would feel at the end of it, but again, what a beautiful experience that was because I got to be with my best friends. I got to learn more about myself. I got to really enjoy just a time in high school. Really fond memories that we can all look back on and sort of reminisce on, which is incredible. So there's literally nothing bad that has come out of just me leaping in that way and me just sort of trusting you, trusting the cast, trusting my friends to just sort of see me through a new experience
And trusting yourself
and
too.
trusting myself. Absolutely.
So Dwayne was a killer, well, and probably still is, although I don't know if you've played recently because of your
Yeah.
principal stuff, but he and his brother Dion were the captains, co-captains of the tennis team, and they killed it like nobody could beat them. They were just incredible. And leaders to boot. So I think especially moving into the second show, West Side Story, where you played action, I think that natural leadership like, really gave you the opportunity to shine through. Once you got comfortable with that first experience, which was just kinda thrown at you,
Hmm.
the second experience, it was like, "Oh, I can do this, and now I'm really gonna do it."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And before I speak to that, another great thing to come out of In the Heights was Kayla, my girlfriend now, had to teach me all of the dance moves uh, last minute.
That's
So that is like a big part of the inception of our relationship. So that holds a lot of meaning to me as well.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so Kayla is episode 9. I think she was episode 9.
Mm,
And Kayla, I have a very special relationship with Kayla. She's like one of my soulmate kind of people, you know. And I don't remember exactly when it was that the two of you got together, but when you did, I remember going, "Ah, this is good." And who knows what a high school relationship is going to turn
absolutely.
into, but the fact that it has, like, what's the phrase? It has, withstood the test of time.
Hmm.
And I'm like, "I can't wait to go to this wedding. I can't wait to, like, hold your first kid," like.
No, seriously, like you said, who knows what comes of a high school relationship, but it's been incredible. Like these last 8 years, just to be able to grow with somebody from such a young age
Mhm.
through, the rest of high school, through college and like post college, like adulthood. It's a journey. It's a journey, and to be able to do it together and then also see and support each other individually has been a blessing. So
Yeah, you stuck it out.
cool. Stuck it
You
out.
and Kayla are kinda like me and my husband, because my husband and I, well, we start he's a year older than me, and he went away to college, and then we started dating, like, we were in the same friends group, same kind.
Hmm.
And we were actually 8 years, then we got married, and then we waited another 6 years to have our first child, so it's
Hmm.
all drawn out.
Long, yeah.
I am in support of the long and drawn out.
Yes. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you. But yes, to get back to your question, so the leadership, I definitely felt that come out a little bit more in West Side Story, having had the experience in the Heights.
Mhm,
It also I felt a little more comfortable and confident to explore
mhm,
a character a little bit more.
mhm.
I say that now, like looking back, I'm like, there's so much more that could have been done. You could have done this way, but I'll save that. To be able to explore a character is really cool and put yourself into it, but also sort of find this character, find what the words are trying to say off the page and the actions, no pun intended, to go along with this character and sort of express. I think was a really cool experience and journey. And then the fact that my closest guy friends, Elijah, Manny, Dion, Kensley, we're all sort of in this group and have pretty prominent roles, and to sort of bounce off of them and of course everybody else in the cast, but I mentioned them specifically because we had such a close relationship in life, and
Mhm.
to be able to infuse a little bit of that into the character development and all that stuff was incredible. It was a really cool experience.
Do you think that that action, of developing a character, do you see any of that as being helpful in what you're about to do
Mm.
in your career field?
Yes, because I had this thought like a few times throughout my education thus far. It's been hard for me, or a challenge for me, to um, merge my personal life and my professional life,
Mhm,
just because I think my culture, just being Black in America, is not really synonymous, unfortunately, with professionalism. So I've really had a hard time sort of reconciling those two identities.
mhm,
And I think something that makes it a little bit easier is knowing when you can turn things on and turn things off. Not to say that I can't put my full personality out there, but to know that I'm capable of, being this doctor and acting a certain way that a doctor sort of acts,
mhm,
has been empowering. It's allowed me to sort of just have some more ease into the process of just learning to be in that space, learning to be in these different spaces. that might be kind of foreign to me. You know what I mean?
You mentioned being a Black man, which, I is fraught with all sorts of eh, cultural obstacles and challenges, of course. And I think anybody going into a professional field or into a role that is not necessarily, being a teacher, like you have your sort of your teacher self or your doctor self, your professional self, and then you've got like your layabout, the way that you are and express yourself in
Hmm.
home. When you say with that extra added layer of challenge of just being, who you are, I hope you wouldn't have to put away too much of yourself, too much more of yourself that than any other person. I hope you come to find that you don't have
I definitely have.
to move forward.
I have. And that's just sort of a conscious decision to make. I think how you show up is how you want to show up. You can be as intentional about that as you want to be. You could be as authentic as you want to be. How you are received in certain spaces is nothing to do with you. It's not my responsibility how you receive me. I'm gonna be me. I know I have the compassion and care to do this job and just to lead a life that I'm proud of. These days, I'm just me, which
Yeah,
has been a learning process for sure.
other people's problems are other people's problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sense of, authentic self has come up a lot in this podcast in the podcast
Mhm.
discussions that I've had. I'm glad that you're sort of working on reconciling that and not just being proud of who you are, but, representing yourself in your truest form. Because honestly, we need more Black men, Black women, Black professionals out there because we have a culture that needs that. There's a need to see that representation in the higher levels, and so
Mhm.
you said that you're gonna become a doctor. I was like, "Yes,
That's me. I'm there.
Doctor Gentle." Although I really, really wanted you to become a pediatrician just because of your name,
I know, right? How perfect would that have been?
but that's okay. For sports people, I guess they need gentle as well.
Everyone needs some gentleness.
Exactly. So, and I feel like we've touched on some of this, but what are some of the lessons that you learned back in the studio that you think about or that you use today?
Yeah, so that big spontaneity has become a big thing for me, and just being okay with just new things, unknown things. My experience in the thespians and in the dance studio has been a big part of that. Kayla has been a big part of that.
Mm.
She is the queen of spontaneity, and she does what she wants. And I took a page out of her book, with just living a little more free, a little less calculated. But I think the other big influence came from the dance studio regarding that aspect. I've learned to sort of lean into moments a little bit more, I think. I distinctly remember like just sitting after, I think it was West Side Story.
Mhm.
Mhm. Maybe it was in the Heights. I don't remember.
Okay.
And then we had like a little moment to reflect in the back of the auditorium. I think it was just you and me
Mm,
talking. It was actually West Side Story because you told me about how you like that I did one thing with action and just appreciating, fully appreciating and being in the moment, not
mm,
waiting until after to do that. Again, just living 100% there, present. That's been a very huge theme for me as well,
mm.
and that has gotten me through school. It's how present can you be, right?
Yeah,
When your mind goes all over the place, how present can you be?
there's a saying that I think of all the time is be where you are, not where you're going.
Mm,
Because when you're thinking about where you're going, how can you do what you're doing now right or
mhm,
best of your ability? That's never more true for me than when I'm either teaching or like doing gymnastics or when I'm, really present in the moment of what I'm doing. I
mm,
know that I can do it right,
mm,
do it well. And when I'm like 4 steps ahead, that's like when I fall and I get injured or I forget a main point that I wanted to get to or I
right.
overlooked something. So that's a really That's a really good lesson.
Mm.
So, projecting now a little bit more forward to today, how have you changed since you graduated high school?
I think something that served me very well that sort of was required in those former years to get to this point was that discipline, that sort of almost like hyper focus on one goal, and that was to always get to medical school,
Mm,
right? Once I got to medical school, I realized that hyper focus, vigilance of what I need to be doing, what I am doing, didn't work out so much for me
mm,
because I was constantly just a lot of anxiety around how I'm performing. A lot of the grading in school now is sort of comparative to other students, and it's relative to other students.
mm,
So, sort of inherent in the process is comparing yourself to other students, which didn't go well for me. I really didn't enjoy that because it just took up a lot of my time. Even when I wasn't doing work, I was thinking about it and worried about it. So that's different now. I took about 6 weeks off at the beginning of my third year of medical school because, again, the way that I was doing things was just not working for me anymore. And it
mm.
made me question the career path through therapy, through some real serious reflection and analysis. It's my mindset. It was I found I need a work life balance. That's the only way I can survive. And a deepened sort of spiritual connection, like with meditation and other aspects of my spirituality. I've come to find that that's all important for me to lead a balanced life, to feel good in whatever I'm doing. So that discipline, that like major discipline that I had before, I'll say I have a fraction of that now, just because I know and feel that you can't plan everything or you can't prepare for everything. So that's made me more present. That's helped me with my anxieties about new things, about testing, things like that. So that's a major, major thing that's different for me now.
I would imagine
Mhm.
that, like, getting thrown into, the fire for that first show is probably, like, the first awakening to
Yes.
the idea that you'll still be okay even if you don't know exactly what's going to happen next.
You're kind of not taught that that's okay, until you're at these older ages and, you kind of have to figure that out for yourself, because it's always right now you have to do what you need to do to get to this next place or to do this or to make sure you don't fall behind here. So it's a lot of forward thinking, looking, I think, as you're younger, rightfully so to an extent, I think. But at some point, you got to be in the moment. Like you got to trust what you set up for yourself and trust that you're doing everything you need to be doing. So that worry kind of melts away. Like
Yeah,
that worry can like kill people.
yeah. That being in the moment, man, that is that's kinda everything when you're trying to assuage anxiety. Because
Mm,
all
mhm,
anxiety, is about thinking of the what ifs.
mhm.
What if this, what if that? And when you're like, but I'm here now, so let me just do the thing that I'm doing now, then you don't really have the mental space to think of, well, what if, what if, what if? So there's
Right.
compartmentalization that benefits us.
Hmm.
Like,
Absolutely. And I
yeah.
think the pandemic played a huge part in like society allowing for this process to happen, for this like frame shift to happen.
Mhm.
Because even an example is my school, after the pandemic, they gave out Headspace for free for everybody at our school. Um, they weren't talking about that before the pandemic. So, as terrible as it has been, and it really has been terrible just being on the wards and seeing everything that goes on. The ability to slow down a little bit, the support from institutions to slow down, I think has been incredible. And that's something that needs to be maintained in all institutions, I think.
I hope we can. I mean, it's holding on now. I fear if, like corporate entities start insisting that people return and remote is, no longer an acceptable option. I think we're gonna backslide, a little bit, but I feel like since, the 8 billion people of the world, all had that same experience of
Hmm.
locking it down for 6 to 12 months, I think we have all been forever changed because of it. And hopefully we're a little bit more mindful of where our brains really are and where they need to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know how you've changed since you were an adolescent. What would your adult self now tell your high school self to help ease the way?
So I would say explore more.
Mm,
Explore more because that's the time to do it. That's when you have the most time. That's when you have the most mental freedom. And that's when it matters the most, I think, sort of at that early age. Again, I was very sort of established in what I knew, what was important to me, what I was good at.
mm.
Academics was straightforward for me. Tennis was it. I threw thespians in there a little bit to shake things, shake things
Right.
up. Um, but just go for it. Do everything. I think I would probably do a little more exploration. Again, I don't know if I'd pick everything that I try. I don't know if I'd pick it up, but I think that's the point of it. Is just sort of add to your experience.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. It's another running theme that we kind of keep coming across, like just try it, just go forth and conquer something new. Your whole life is new. Everything that we do is new.
Mm.
Well, but there's so much to be enjoyed if we could just get past our fears.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A big part of it too is like your friend group, I think, probably has a big thing to do with it. If you're not encouraged sort of in many aspects of your life, at home, at school, from your teachers, from your friends, you're probably less likely to venture out and do these things. But again, very fortunate for the group that I had and the support that we gave each other. I
Mhm.
think it would have been easier for me to do, absolutely, if that was something on my mind. But you can totally see the barriers for a lot of other people. Maybe their group might judge them, maybe their friends. So
Right.
it's so complex. I think just being a kid growing up, because there's so many things to actually worry about and that are influencing you consciously and subconsciously. But again, hindsight is 2020, right? So that's what I would tell myself.
Mm. Explore. Yes. Other than med school, what is something that you're grappling with now?
Mhm. So other than med school, that's funny because as you alluded to earlier, right, this is our whole life. It sort of has to be your whole life to get through it. Like you have to really buy in 100% for it to work.
Mhm,
And I am the thing that I'm grappling with or am challenged with is making sure that it's not the case.
mhm,
So, what else do I enjoy doing? Who else am I aside from this title of doctor? You know what I mean? Because there's a lot more to life to me than that. Diversifying my interests, sort of leaning into who I am now,
mhm.
doing that exploration. That's sort of my challenge right now. It's been a great journey. It's been an incredible journey just to learn about myself some more and know that some days are going to be easier, some days are going to be harder, but
Mhm.
there's lessons in everything. There's a moment to reflect in everything. So I've been doing that ever since my 6 weeks off at the beginning of third year. So it's been a wonderful year of trying to ground myself in the present moment and through that really see what I'm experiencing, see what I want more of,
Mhm.
see what how I can rebalance things, restructure things in my life to feel a little less like totally consumed by medicine.
Put upon by it.
Yeah.
I know time is a major factor just because of the amount of knowledge that you have to pack into your brain.
Hmm.
But do you find that you have like some downtime to do some of those other things?
Yes, I make it so. It's funny. I was just thinking of what I wanted to say a little bit before we came on here. I probably would not tell an incoming medical student how I do things because I don't know that it could work for anybody else but me. And I think that's a sentiment that should be like passed on to every upcoming medical student is you're going to get like a million pieces of advice, but they might not do it for you. You have to figure it out yourself. Like, what do you actually need? If I told my upperclassmen how I go about my life now, they'd be like, how are you passing? Because I really try to spend as much time away from medicine as I can, like within reason. So, like one thing I've been doing a lot more has been running within the past year. I ran a half marathon last year, and I have a 10-mile race coming up in the Bronx. So I am really excited about that.
Right.
Spending time with music, like actually trying to make beats and engage with music because it's always been such a big part of my life and in my family's life and my brother and girlfriend's life. So it's just another way to connect to the people that I care about the most. And I think that's where I like my energy to be spent
Mhm.
the most outside of medicine. So
And do you find that by making that space, you're actually making a little bit more room in your head for all the medical stuff that you have to pack in there?
absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, once I set, I say I'm done, I'm studying X amount this day. Whatever I get done, I get done. Put it on to the next day if you don't finish. And not actually like worrying about having to hit a certain number of questions or to review a certain number of topics. That frees up my mind to do other things and to live my life exactly how I want to live it.
Mm.
Um, so yes, it has being able to sort of engage with other things has allowed me to stay more present
And calmer,
and
like that
calmer.
anxiety. If you give yourself that space to like calm that anxiety down, that's going to inevitably rise up because, oh my God, I have this test. Oh my God, if I don't get it, oh, what if, what if, what if?
Hmm.
You don't spend your mental energy wasting it on something that's not going to actually help you to get the thing done that you need to get done,
Absolutely.
the grade that you need to get done.
Hmm. And there's a reason I'm not becoming a neurosurgeon. Because I kind of like my time, and it's like PM&R has. I think my personality lends itself most sort of suitably to that specialty,
Mm,
and that was a big part of like figuring things out too. As soon as I realized it was PM&R and it's a little less competitive than like a lot of the other really competitive specialties,
mm,
I could breathe a little bit. I don't need like the top score on my step one exam or whatever. I can enjoy life a little bit. So that's been a big help as well.
that's good. Look, know thyself, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Tell me one thing that you miss about your high school self and one thing that's gotten better since you've become an adult.
I had so much energy as a younger person in high school, like just to have time to do all of those things, tennis, go to thespians. Like, I don't even know how we got that to work. Like, it was during the same season. Thank you, shout out Bond for helping that work out. I think just like childhood adrenaline and just excitement to be around friends and just to do things
Yeah.
was there as a kid, and now it's like a little more challenging to get up early, to maybe go run in the morning, to whatever,
Yeah.
cook, whatever it is. Um, so I miss that. I think that's just a part of becoming an adult.
Mm. Kinsley said that too, by the
Kenzie
way.
said that, right?
Yeah, he
Your
did.
back just hurts, like everything just goes downhill. But that's one thing I really truly miss. Like, that might sound funny, but I really do miss that. Um, I think the quality of the time that I get to spend now has become a lot better. Even in this conversation, I really feel like I'm here. I
Mm.
feel like I have this space to think and really connect with my dear Tiro. And it's just even running, just being present with running, everything that I do, I feel like I have a little bit more presence with,
Mhm.
and that makes me enjoy it infinitely more, even that little more presence. So that's something that I think I have now that has been incredible for me.
Mm. If you could give a piece of sage advice to high school students now, what would it be?
So I would say now is the time to establish your discipline. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't have to be academics. We're not only talking about academics. You can find something that you love in your life, whether it's playing an instrument, a sport, whatever it is.
Mhm,
And if you can build up your discipline and dedication, like to engage with that thing just over time,
mhm,
I think that will confer a lot of confidence when you do get to sort of new places in your life and more challenging places in your life. And you're now questioning, can you do something? Well, you know you can because you've been working on it. You've been working on that focus, that discipline. I think that's something that's helped me out tremendously. That I started sort of in high school.
mhm,
For me, it was just focusing on academics and sort of balancing everything that I was doing. It
mhm.
translated very well to balancing things in medical school in undergrad. Just push yourself a little bit in the things that you enjoy. I think that's an easy way to get to build up that discipline.
And I think that the thespian thing probably helped you do that in just a different way.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that that discipline translates to whatever it is that you're putting your mind in and your energy in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of being rather than the thing that you're doing.
Absolutely.
It's how you what you bring to the
It's
table.
what you bring. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now we're back to you today, presently. What are 3 self-care practices that you do now to help you to center or regulate yourself?
Number one, again, would have to be sort of my delving into my spirituality,
Mhm,
my meditations, my mantras, my connection to beyond the physical, beyond my physical self.
mhm,
Um, that has allowed me really to just tone down the anxiety,
mhm.
to feel capable of doing what I need to do. And I know that I am capable. It's about sort of, can my mind follow? And it has. And it's been brilliant and an amazing thing just to make me feel good throughout the day.
What's one of the like, your favorite mantras?
So I actually have mantras in Sanskrit in a different language. So I'll give you a rough translation of one. We free ourselves from suffering when we recognize the essence of all things. So that's one of them. To know that, your experience is the same as everyone else's here. It's the same as the plants, it's the same as the animals, it's the same as every living thing on this earth. I think if you can sort of connect to the collective energy,
Mhm.
understand that things will happen, good and bad, and it's just for you to experience. That for me has helped me sort of just settle down into my own experience, to trust my own experience, and again to be present. That's the major theme, I
And
think, in
trust
all
that
my
you'll
practices.
know, like, what to do when the time comes.
Hmm.
That trust
Hmm.
element is important in yourself.
Absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely.
Alright, so that was
Um,
1.
that's one.
Mhm.
Hmm. Another thing is running. Running is such a challenge for me, mental more than physical, and I think that is my favorite part of it. I think when you get into the longer miles for me, which is 7, 8, 9 plus miles, that's when I really have to sort of lock in and trust my body, trust my legs, but coach myself through it.
Mm.
So that's been fun, and training for this race has been extremely fun. That's another sort of meditative moment for me as well,
Mhm.
and not on a treadmill. I don't like a treadmill. I need to be
Oh.
outside. Even when it's snowing, I'm outside.
You're
Um,
a brave boy.
so that's two, three. I think we touched on it, but sort of tapping into my other interests, my other
Mm,
experiences outside of medical school.
mhm.
It gets very one dimensional at certain times when you're studying all day, all night. Something that I've sort of been telling myself, learning, like, everyone loves to praise that you're becoming a doctor, you're doing this, and absolutely, like, that's an incredible thing to do. but I'm also XYZ. I'm also interested in this, that, and the other, and just to lean into those other parts of myself has been a really empowering thing. Uh, I'm not just, I'm gonna be a cool doctor. I'm not just a doctor,
That's
you know.
right. You're a doctor plus.
Plus, plus, plus.
I just think it's amazing that I'm gonna call you Dr. Gentle. Like it just
I can't believe
washes
it.
over me, and I'm so excited about it because I don't know that many doctors
Mm,
personally, We go
yeah,
to them and they're like, they've got this kind of wall up as
yeah.
treating professional. I'm like, but I got the inside scoop with one
You
now.
know a little, yeah, that's right. No, I'm excited. Thank you, Tiro. And
Uh,
you've been such a constant and empowering force along my journey. And I can never thank you enough. So I'll spend the rest of my life trying to do so.
Well, listen, you came on my podcast, so that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Good start, huh?
That's a great start. I'm very excited. We have come to the end of another episode of Change for the Better, the power of arts in education. Tune in next week for episode 31 as we move forward on our journey to prove just how important the arts are in our lives. Thank
Awesome.
you, Dwayne.
Thank you, Tiro.
Pleasure.
Love you always.
Uh,